So if this is the year you told yourself you'll definitely be starting a business with your Cricut machine, but you haven't quite taken that leap yet, I thought in this video I would just debunk a few of the reasons that might be stopping you. These are just some of the most common things I hear when people tell me they're unsure about starting a business. Let's get right into it. So the first one I hear all the time, probably the most common, is that the market is too saturated. And they're not wrong. There are a lot of people out there creating products with their Cricuts and other cutting machines and selling them. However, I often see similar kinds of stuff being sold, but there is so much you can do with your cutting machines. And even if you just want to focus on vinyl decals like I do, there's loads of options there as well. And so I don't love this term, it feels very corporate, but you need to find your USP, so your unique selling point, and not just copy others and rely on things that have already been done. So whether that's a certain niche or a certain style, or just using what's unique about you to speak to your audience, you can definitely stand out. So it could be selling decals that are very retro, or it could be targeting a certain kind of pet owner in particular, or becoming the go-to in your area for businesses if they need window displays. There are literally just so many different avenues you can go down, and then so many niches within those avenues as well. It's like a big old tree with loads of branches. In my course, How to Start a Vinyl Decal Business, I do go over some ways to find your niche if you want to check that out. It's free for 1 month for all new members. Whenever this reason makes me hesitate in creating something new, I just think of the aisles in the supermarket. Think of how many different breads there are, how many different cereals, sauces, all kinds of different things. But they all have their place because they offer different things and different people are going to buy them. So yes, the market is saturated for people making stuff with their Cricut and selling it, but there are still so many different ways you can stand out and do your own thing. So the second reason I hear a lot is that it's too hard to market things. And marketing is hard, especially when you're first starting out. But there are so many options for getting your products in front of customers. This shouldn't really be a reason that stops you. It does depend on where you're marketing them, like which space online. But my biggest tip would be to focus on content that gets engagement, because that is more likely to be shared and seen by others and kind of get a bigger audience, or stuff that shows your product either solving a problem or kind of how it can be used in real life. So show behind the scenes, give them a sneak peek of a few of your new designs, ask customers to choose which one they'd like to see next, show different scenarios with your products in them, anything but just flat pictures of your products that people are likely to scroll past. I do have another video with lots of creative ways to promote your products if you want to check that out. I'll link to that here. But if you really want to nail this, there are tons of accounts across social media and also courses that can help you out and give you way more information depending on which kind of avenue you want to go down to market your product. Just make sure anyone that you're following for advice has the most up-to-date tips, and remember that stuff that works for one person or a few people might not necessarily work for everyone. That's why you do just have to kind of try different stuff and see what sticks. And that does sound like a lot of work, and it is to begin with, but hopefully the more products you sell, the more reviews you get, the more word of mouth will happen, and it kind of creates a snowball effect to the point where now I don't really do that much marketing at all for my vinyl decal business. Nearly everything I do comes through Etsy search, and people buy just based on past reviews or because they're coming back for repeat orders from me. Number 3 is that you don't think that your products are good enough. It is usually the case that we are our own worst critics. I know I am so hard on myself about some of the stuff that I make, but we all need to start somewhere. When I first started, my product photos were awful. The fonts that I used for my designs weren't great quality, and I hadn't really figured out how to make my packages look pretty yet. But I just kind of kept going, kept improving, and now all of those things are like 1,000 times better. If you need some convincing, just look up the first products and the first designs from some like major brands and companies. Like, have you ever seen the first series of The Simpsons? It's a hard watch. And did you know the first Nike shoe was made with a home waffle iron? So the more you look into things like that, you realise everyone started somewhere. No one just came out with like an amazing product overnight. Or if they did, they're a rare exception. If you're really worried that your products aren't quite good enough yet though, or if you're not even sure if people will want to buy them, then you could do an introductory offer where you start with like really low prices in exchange for reviews and feedback. And then that gives you the chance to make improvements and practice your craft a bit before you put them up to full price. And if people like them, like those first introductory items, that'll also give you some good reviews to kind of build on as well. Number 4 is that you don't have enough time. We all have the same amount of hours in the day as Beyonce. Imagine, that would be nice. But unless you've got a team of people behind you, then I doubt that is true. Where does the time even go? And if you have kids, you're working a job, you've got all these other responsibilities, then I'm sure starting a business often ends up at the bottom of your priority list. But if you focus on doing one step at a time, even if it's just like one tiny step, and you do that one tiny step per week, you'll be 52 steps closer to having that business a year from today. So it is all about just breaking it down, and then you don't get yourself so overwhelmed and feel like, oh my God, I just don't have enough time to do this. So that leads me on to the next reason, number 5, is that you just don't know where to start. So you might not know what your next step is. And this is a tough one because you don't know what you don't know. Again though, I have a number of courses free for 1 month for new members if you want to check those out. And they will walk you through the basics of making vinyl decals, how to start a vinyl business, how to create the decals that are appropriate for selling, and then also how to price your items and where to sell online. So if you need a little bit of help with that, you can kind of figure out where you are in that process and start from there in whichever course will be most suited to you. And then there are tons of other courses on Skillshare as well, depending on where you are in your business journey and kind of what you're thinking about creating to sell. And then there are also so many resources on YouTube, on Pinterest, on social media, in books, on podcasts. Probably way too much information, to be honest. But there will be something to answer any questions that you have. You've just got to go and find it. I think with this, you just kind of need to look at where you are. And again, just think of one little step to work on and try not to overwhelm yourself with kind of everything that needs to be done. And then the last reason is that people don't think they will make enough profit. If you're not making a profit, then your prices probably aren't high enough. And if customers are telling you your items are too expensive, then they're probably not your customers. You obviously need to make sure that your items are actually worth what you're charging for them. And yes, it is sometimes difficult if competitors are undercutting you. But in the long run, there is no point in underselling yourself if you want to make this into a business, because you may as well be doing something else. Again, this course goes over setting your prices to make sure you're making a profit if you want to check it out. It also might be the case though that some items just aren't very profitable, especially if you're competing with major brands who have factories, or even bigger brands who can buy in bigger wholesale stock. In which case it might not be worth selling them at all, or you might need to do something to them to change them up or swap them out for something else. That was what I had to do with makeup and tote bags. I used to sell those with HTV on, but I just wasn't selling enough that I could buy in like a massive amount of bulk. So the base cost wasn't as low as I needed it to be really. And then also I would make mistakes on them all the time. So I was spending a lot on wastage. And so in the end, it just wasn't worth it. I wasn't making enough of a profit on it. So that's now why I sell exclusively vinyl decals. So I hope you found that helpful. It really is just a journey at the end of the day, and it's not always easy, but for me it is 100% worth it. And if you've watched this far, then you're definitely ready to commit. So this is your sign to make that leap. Let me know in the comments if you have any other reasons that are stopping you from starting your business, or if you've got any questions. Please don't forget to like, follow and subscribe for more videos like this in future.